Hello, welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Karlie and this is a mostly knitting podcast where sometimes we do talk about other things like sewing or natural dyeing. We have a lot of knitting to talk about as usual, but I also have a little bit of natural dye to talk about as well. I have a couple of finished objects. One item is what I'm wearing, and then I have a pair of vanilla socks to share, and then a couple of whips as well, and future plans involving some naturally dyed things. So let's start with the finished objects and what I'm wearing. This is the cloud sweater by Petite Knit. I mentioned this a little bit, or actually a lot bit in my last podcast episode. So I'll just recap some of it in case you missed it. But yes, this is the cloud sweater by Petite Knit. I knit this in Drop Swish in the color 10 Bordeaux, which is actually discontinued yarn. And I didn't realize this was discontinued until I was realizing that I may run out of yarn and that I'd have to buy some, and then found out that I wouldn't be able to buy any. So this kind of became a stressful project for me. Not really stressful because it's just a sweater at the end of the day, but I guess I was just kind of eager and anxious to see if I'd have enough yarn and how it would look with using just the yarn that I had. But that did kind of make me speed through this sweater because I really wanted to see what the outcome would be. So all in all, this took me from January 13th to the 27th. It was just a 2-week sweater, which I was really happy to have a sweater done in 2 weeks, but it isn't on a larger gauge. I actually used a bulky weight yarn, and the pattern calls for Aran weight, and it does call for 4.5 millimeter needles, but I used 5 millimeter needles, and I definitely could have gone up a needle size, I think, and knit the smaller size, because knitting with the 5 millimeter on this bulky weight yarn was just a bit too tight for me and did not make my hands feel good. But I am pretty happy with this sweater, and I'll show up here so you can get a good view of everything. So as you can see, I had to go with some shorter sleeves because I ran out of yarn. I actually only have this much yarn left. I could have gotten a few or like a couple rows extra maybe on my sleeves, but I also had to account for the fact that I would have to do a certain amount of stitches for this 1x1 rib, and then a certain amount of stitches for stockinette after the rib, and then enough for the bind off. So it was a little bit hard to calculate just how much yarn I would need, but I did give myself some extra room just in case I would hate to run out of yarn on one sleeve and then not be able to finish the other. So I had a little bit of extra, so it all worked out. But the sleeve, it hits me when my arms are down, it hits me about here, which I'm totally fine with actually. I often roll up the sleeves on my sweaters to be this length anyway, so I just don't have to roll this one up anymore. But I think it kind of looks good with the style and the length of the body too. Overall, it did work out. It was just kind of, not the most enjoyable knit for me because I was so anxious to see if I'd have enough yarn, and I couldn't really relax through it. And then on top of that, there was the 5 millimeter needle with the bulky weight yarn that just didn't feel that great or natural in my hands. I didn't, some projects, the gauge and the needle size and the yarn, everything comes together so perfectly, and it just feels so good on your hands. Well, that happens to me anyway with certain gauges and yarn weights and things like that, where it just feels so natural to my hands and I can just like fly through something. This wasn't that for me, which is fine, but it did make me appreciate working on some of my other projects that have different needle sizes and yarn weights and gauges, because it just feels so much more comfortable for me. But yeah, I think I kind of learned that I actually already knew this, but I guess I just ignored it, but I don't love knitting with bulky weight. And 4.5, maybe even 4 is kind of like my max for what I want to use, or 4.5 millimeter or 4 millimeter needle sizes is kind of my max for what I want to use for needles that don't irritate my hands. I actually would like to knit this again though and use Aran weight yarn, the proper yarn weight, and the 4.5 millimeter needles, or even less, and do another version and knit size 1 this time, because I think this is a really nice basic sweater. I really like this funnel neck too. It's just kind of something different than the regular rib that you get on most sweaters. So I don't think I went through the construction of this, but it is drop shoulder. It's knit from the top down. It's kind of like your basic drop shoulder construction, starting with the back panel and then picking up stitches for your right shoulder, left shoulder, working the front, then joining in the round, and then picking up stitches for the sleeves and picking up stitches for the collar as well. And one thing that I really love about this, and it's so simple and not difficult at all, but it just adds like a lot, like a really nice detail to it, is at picking up for the shoulders and for the arms, you do a couple rounds of purls. So you just get some nice like little details there, and I'll stand up and show you closer to the camera. This is my first day wearing this sweater. It took about like 3 or 4 days for it to dry. So I even put it on this morning and it was slightly damp. It's fully dry now, but I just could not wait to wear it any longer. I'd been staring at it on the drying mat, just dying to wear it. But it is really hot. The good thing about this though, it's quite oversized for me, so a lot of air can get in still so I don't get too hot. But it is like a really dense fabric, so it's a winter only sweater for me, I would say. I've only worn it for a few hours now, so I can't really speak to the yarn yet, but it's very soft because this is 100%, not 100%, but it's a mix of alpaca, cotton, and wool. And yeah, it's one of those yarns that has like the cotton core and then the other fibers blown into it. So it's really soft, and I guess I shouldn't even be talking about the yarn that much because it is discontinued, but it does feel really good. And I'm wearing a shirt underneath it, but I definitely could wear this next to skin. And the reason why I bought this yarn about a year and a bit ago was just because of the color. I just really love this mulberry color. That's pretty much all there is to say about this sweater. I'm really happy to have it done. I think I will get a lot of wear out of it, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see though, because sometimes I say that when I'm done a project and then it sits in my closet. But I think on cooler days this will be a really great option for me, and I can test that out this coming week because where I'm from it's going to get pretty cold. So I think I finished this at a good time. But let's get into my next object, which is just a pair of self-drafted vanilla socks. I did share these a little bit last time. I'm done them now, and here they are, just some speckled vanilla socks. I block them this way so they look pretty funny. I just like to lay them flat and tuck the heel like that. And I just find it works a lot better to retaining its shape versus using the sock blockers that I don't use anymore because they stretch out my socks way too much. I don't know why sock blockers are so wide. I would maybe there are some, but I would really love to find some sock blockers that are quite narrow because they just stretch out my new socks so much, and then I put them on and they're baggy, and I definitely don't want positive V's on my socks. So I stopped using them, and then I just lay them flat just like this and lay them flat to dry, and I find that works really well. I guess I could just skip blocking, but I still find even though I'm not drying them on the blocker, the stitches even out, the stitches bloom, especially with this base. I find that blocking is really important and helps the stitches look a lot more even. So first off, let's get into the construction of this sock really quickly, then I'll talk about the yarn. So I just did my usual cuff down vanilla sock. I think I did 15 rounds of 1x1 ribbing. And then, a leg. And then I did a short row heel, the usual short row heel that I do. Plain stockinette for the foot and a wedge toe. And I knit these up as a little sample for myself because I finally started my yarn dyeing company, and this is one of the colorways. So this is Strawberry Lemonade, and I was so eager to see how it would knit up, and I just had to knit up a pair of vanilla socks to see how this colorway would look. So what did I use to dye these? Let's think here. I believe that all the yellows, I'm pretty certain, I know I have this information somewhere, but I'm pretty certain that all the yellows and the golds and oranges are onion skins, yellow onion skins, and then the reds and the pinks is madder root. So yeah, these were a really fun, quick project. I think it took me about 4 days because I really love knitting with speckled yarn on socks, specifically because it's really fun to get to a new color and just see the fabric appear in front of your eyes and how all the speckles play together. So every time I cast on a speckled sock, it doesn't take me long because I just focus on that for so long I can't put it down. And yeah, mostly just because I love seeing how the colors play together. But yeah, really fun to work on. Glad I finished these up. I've knit a few samples now of my colorways, and I have not worn any of them, and I don't know if I ever will, if I should just keep them as nice, like pristine samples, or if I should actually start wearing them. But yeah, I don't know. I just really love to have the pile of samples that I have and seeing them in all the different colorways and just admiring them from afar. So let's get into my whips. I have a new whip to talk about, and this is the Unsweater by Fiskum Sunde. Hopefully I'm saying all of that right, but I'm so excited about this sweater because this is one that I've wanted for a really long time. I've had on my queue for ages, and I think I was just waiting for the right yarn to come around, and I am beyond happy with it. I started this 2 days ago, I believe, and I'm really obsessed with it. I just want to knit on this all the time. So this is a top-down raglan, and the main feature of it being a really dramatic, like 2x2 ribbed split hem. So I'll just show you what I have so far. I guess this is what I have. It has a 2x2 folded collar, and then you can see the raglan details here. It's like a ribbed feature on each raglan. I love that so much, and I think that this ribbing goes down into the split hem, the ribbed split hem. So I'm past the short rows, and now I'm just working all of the raglan increases. I still have quite a bit to get through, but this does have a folded hem, like I said, and I already sewed it down. So you can either do it like bind off while you're knitting it, but that's never worked too well for me. When I did that in the past, I would often get a twisted, twisted collar, and that really bothers me. So I wanted to have a little bit more control, so this time I tried to sew it down, and I think it worked out really well. I don't think it's twisting in any way. And what I did was I basically just used stitch markers, and about every knit column of the rib I would pin it down with a stitch marker. So I do it here, it's backwards for me, I'm trying to see on the camera here, and then here, here. I did that all the way around so that it wouldn't twist as I'm sewing it down, and I think it worked out really well. I did try this on also just to make sure that the neckline wasn't too tight, and it's good. I can fit it over my head. Thank God. I would have been so annoyed with myself if I had sewn that whole thing down and it was too tight. I've definitely done that before, but good to go this time, thank God. And I'm knitting this with Noro Madara in the color number 1. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen this before, because it's super popular, and for good reason, because it is like so beautiful. It's a gray base, and pretty much every color you can imagine is spun into this yarn. So it's like a really fun neutral for me, because I have a tough time knitting on just plain neutrals that don't have any like variegation or interest. So Noro's great for this because it just has little color speckled in throughout, but you can still kind of have that neutral feeling. And I'm not a huge fan of gray at all. It actually makes me feel really sad. wearing gray, but this is different just because I feel different knitting on this, and I think I'll feel differently while wearing it with all the different fun colors in here. And this yarn was gifted to me from Knitting Fever also. So this is just becoming a really fun, enjoyable project for me. It's all I want to knit on, and I actually have used this yarn before. I knit a ribbed headband a couple of years ago with a different colorway. It was like a light purple. It's so beautiful. But I don't have a sweater in this, and I'm really excited to have a sweater in this. I personally find this, just from like trying it on briefly around my neck, I don't think it'll be too itchy, but you never know. Couple of hours wearing it, it might start to irritate me. We'll see, but either way I can just wear a top underneath because the neckline isn't too tall either since it is folded, so it's not going to be like bothering my neck too much, because sometimes alpaca can bother me, and I believe this has alpaca in it. Let's see. I have the tag in a knitting basket over here and I can't find it. Here it is. Okay. Yeah, 60% wool, 30% silk, 10% alpaca. So not a whole lot of alpaca. So I might be okay. But yeah, I'm just really happy I'm finally knitting this sweater because it's been on my list for a long time, like I said. And every time I see someone's version of this sweater, I fall in love with it again and again. And yeah, actually the designer came out with a light version, I think is what she called it. And I can't remember the yarn weight, but this one calls for worsted, I think, and then the other one calls for like a lighter yarn weight. Maybe it's DK or sport or fingering, I'm not sure. But that kind of makes me want to knit a summer version too. I think that'd be really fun. But I guess I should just do one thing at a time and finish the one that I'm already working on and just try and enjoy that. But it's been like so fun, and I'm so glad I'm past these short rows, because normally I do like doing short rows, but sometimes, well, this one just wasn't that enjoyable for me for whatever reason. And I think it's just because you have to knit on the wrong side when you're doing short rows, and with this raglan thing you have to do like the opposite stitches on the opposite side, which is fine once you have the pattern established, but just getting it started was a little bit irritating for my brain just to manage that. But after I got like the setup rows done for the short rows, it was good to go because I could just read my knitting after that. But that was something that was kind of annoying. And then you also have to do your increases on the wrong side, which I don't love doing, for like a make one left and a make one right for the purl. So yeah, I got through that part, and now I'm just knitting on my raglan increases. And then I think that for my version, I'm pretty sure that the ribbing on the designer and like a lot of other people's starts pretty much right below their bust. And I think I want to extend my stockinette part to about the narrowest part of my waist, and then I'll start the split hem and the ribbing at that point and have a little bit of a shorter split hem. So maybe like this, yeah, about that much of a split hem. I just think that will look better on my body and just more of a style I like. So that's my plan. And yeah, that's all there is to say. I don't know. I'm just really excited about it and happy to have another sweater on my needles. I should be good for yarn quantity, hopefully. I've got 5 skeins of this yarn, so hopefully I'm good, but at least this yarn isn't discontinued, so if I do run out, I can always buy more, and that won't be a problem this time. Okay, the next whip that I'm working on is the Vaffla mittens. I've mentioned these a few weeks back. I just had one of them done. So this one, it's knit in Juniper Moon Farm, Patagonia. The goldy yellow is 133, and then the neutral is 148. So I had one of these done, but I had it sitting for a long time, and I thought that is not okay. We're not going to let one mitten be sitting for a few weeks like this. So I picked it back up and I started the other one, and I only have a little bit. As you can see, I just finished the cuff, few rounds of color work, and then I started my sweater after I did this, so I haven't picked it back up, and I don't know when I will because, like I said, I'm really involved in this sweater right now. But at least this mitten started the hardest part of just casting on and doing the cuff and things that aren't that fun for me. That's done, so it's ready to be picked up and worked on whenever I like. The good thing about this is this mitten works up so fast. It's just one of those things for me that once I start knitting on it, I can't put it down because I get really obsessed with working the color work and seeing the motif grow in front of my eyes. It's just something I really enjoy working on, and yeah, I really love these mittens. They're so beautiful. I love both sides, I think. Really, really pretty. So I would like to dedicate some time, a couple times a week, to work on these mittens, just so that I don't forget about them completely, and also so I can get some wear out of them before spring arrives. Those are all the whips that I'm currently working on, but I do have some things that I want to chat with you all about. So one of them being, I've I've shared these with you before. These are the Alma Street socks that I designed. I wrote a pattern for it. It's been tech edited. It's all ready. It's good to go. So I will be calling for test knitters, and actually the test knit application goes up today on the release of this video, and the information is down below, and the link to the application is in the description box below as well. So if you're interested in test knitting these for me, please consider checking out the test knit application link down below. And a little bit of information on these if you haven't seen them yet. It's knit top down. Again, I blocked them in the usual way I do, so they look funny, but it's knit top down, 2x2 cuff. It's quite a long leg section of color work. It's got two heel options. So there's a heel option for the short row, which is shown here, or the heel flapping gusset if that's your preferred method, and then it's just plain stockinette and a wedge toe for the foot. So there are many options for the color work too. There's a version of 2 colors, a version of 3 colors, and a version of 4 colors. So this one right here is a 4-color version. Now even with the 4-color version, only 3 colors are used at one time. It just kind of gives you guidance how to add in a 4th color if you want to. And then the 3-color version, there are 3 colors being used at one time, and same with the 4-color version. The most you're ever going to use at one time is 3 colors, but if you are more of a beginner for color work, there's also the 2-color version. I don't have a sample of that yet, but I am planning on knitting a sample of that just to see how it looks, because I haven't seen how that looks yet and I'm very curious. But yeah, I'm really excited about these. I think they're really fun and pretty, and I would love it if some of you were able to test knit for me, and that's always so much, so appreciated. I used to test knit a ton, and I know the time and effort that goes into test knitting, and it's just a really nice thing for people to do. So yeah, thank you in advance if you do apply to be a test knitter. I really appreciate it. And what else did I want to say about this? Oh yes, the test knit for these socks, you just have to complete 1 sock, and then the test knit would run. I think I'm just going to do 4 weeks. I know that's a long time for socks, but there's no rush in getting this out, and I just don't want anyone to ever feel stressed out during a test knit. And yeah, so you just need to do 1 sock for during a 4-week test period. So yes, these are my 4-color version. This is knit in my naturally dyed yarn. It's a BFL sock base, so 100% BFL. The main color is called Butter, and then the other colors are just one-of-a-kind colors that aren't available but just have been used as I have basically one-of-a-kind colorways for leftover dye, so nothing goes to waste, and then I can only sometimes get 1 or 2 skeins, maybe 3 skeins out of the leftover dye. So that's where the one-of-a-kind comes from. But yeah, so the main is butter, and then the rest is one of a kind colorways. But I think I want to do a 2-color version using these here. So this one is golden olive, and then this one is, I think this one's peach, if I remember correctly. But I had 2 of these that I saved for myself to do some knitting with. I thought that it would be fun to do the cuff and all of the like contrast color work parts in this, and then the main color, so the rest of the foot and all of the like parts that are yellow in here will be this golden olive here. So I'm thinking of knitting up a sample with these, and I also, yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm going to save these to knit up a second sample for the 2 color work version. Now I have a bunch of leftovers of this naturally dyed BFL sock yarn. So these are all experimental skeins that I was using to just try different materials to dye with, and didn't have like a full amount to sell on my website. So I just kind of kept them for myself, and I've been knitting up samples and just seeing how they wear and testing out this 100% BFL also. So I've accumulated some pieces here. I've got this. So this could be, I barely used any of this. This could do a whole sock. I've got some yellow, some of this beige, some green, this rusty red, and then 2 speckled colorways. So I have all of these bits and pieces of sock yarn, and I'm just dying to do some more color work. I am leaning towards the, I forget what it's called, but I'll put it up on the screen, but it's by Stone Knits, and it's the, maybe it's the sunflower or just the flower socks, I don't know, but I'm really dying to knit those. So I'm thinking I could do the main color in this clay pink, and then just based on what I have the most of, I could do the flowers in this buttery yellow. I don't think I would have enough, well maybe I would, but I don't think I'd have enough to do the whole sock entirely with the yellow flowers, but maybe I could just do the leg and the flowers, and then the foot can just be plain stockinette with 1 color. So I think that would be really fun. I'm just dying to knit those socks. They are so cute, and every version of them I see, I fall in love with. So I think I might do that. This would be fun too, like a lower contrast, but I don't have too much of this left, so that would only have to be like 1 or 2 rounds maybe. No, I probably would get more than that. I don't know, it's hard to tell. But I was thinking 1 or 2 like chart repeats of the flowers on the leg, but I really like that option too. I guess another thing I could do is do like alternating rows of flowers in these 2 colors. That could be fun. But I also, any leftovers I have of this from my sample sock that I'm going to knit, I could also use and maybe do the flowers as green, although I would like to do reverse. I'd rather have a green sock and pink flowers. Those are my thoughts on my sock knitting plans and using up all of these little bits and pieces from leftovers from other socks. But yeah, I'm really leaning towards doing the Stone Knits. Alternatively, I could do the Colorwork Cuff Club, which I'm a part of, and do the August color work chart again, which is the flowers, which I've done before. And because I love those so much, I would definitely knit them again. So I could do that as well. But it would be fun to have a pair of socks that I've never knit before also. So yeah, lots of thoughts and ideas going on about using up some of these leftovers and sample socks. And yeah, it's been fun. I love planning things out like this. I think it's really fun to look at different patterns, and I for one have just been really, really enjoying color work, especially color work socks. So yeah, anyway, please let me know if you want to test knit. Just apply down in the link below in the description box, and then yeah, we can go from there. So I will actually need quite a few testers because I'll need maybe a couple for each size at least, and then I would like to have people knitting the 2 different heels. I need variation of people knitting the short row and the heel flap and gusset. And then I also need a couple people for each of the color work options, like the 2, 3, or 4 color works. So I will need a bit more than usual for this one. But yeah, I found it to be really fun. If you like color work knitting and sock knitting, then I think you would enjoy it. But yeah, that is down below. And yeah, I think that's all there is for today as far as my projects are going and my future plans. I've been just getting things sorted over here. Like I said, I started my yarn dyeing business, so it's just been a lot of figuring all that out and dyeing up yarn. And things aren't for sale yet, but I'm just getting ready to put things up for sale. And it's been like really stressful in a way, because I have been unable to work for the last 2.5 years due to health problems, or like chronic pain basically. So I'm finally returning back to work. I can't do the job that I was doing before. So I decided that now was the time to go ahead with my yarn dyeing business. So it's just been like exciting, but also really terrifying at the same time, because a couple of things: fear and stress of working again and seeing how my body can handle it. And there have been times where I've like pushed way too hard, and then I'm down for a long time, and then it takes a while to get back into it. But it's just learning how to get a routine going again, a schedule set, and having that work-life structure in my life again after such a long time. And yeah, it's just kind of been a lot the last couple of months because of that. So I'm trying to remain positive and optimistic about everything, but I am excited to be working again, and yeah, hopefully just getting my life back on track. It just felt like it was on hold for a few years, and that was really hard. So it does feel like I'm getting that part of my life back, which has been really exciting and I think really good for me, like mentally. So that's been good. But yeah, I've just been busy with all of that stuff and figuring everything out. And then I've just been knitting a lot also, because it's been a stress reliever for me. So I've been flying through a few projects, but that is because I find a lot of stress relief in that. And that's been, thank God for knitting, honestly, for so many reasons, but for this particular time, just for, getting some relief from stress and just focusing on a project has been so nice. So anyways, I'll leave it there for today. Thank you all so much. I appreciate all of you for watching, and if you did like this, please consider liking, subscribing if you aren't already, or commenting. That is a really great way to support me and my channel, and I really appreciate it. And I really do love reading all of your comments. I read all of them and I reply to all of them. So thank you so much, and we will see you all next time. All right, thank you, and bye.